I decided to make a video because as a new resident of Florida, what I encountered was a really sad situation where I needed a car and I went to Craigslist where there were a lot of listings and you had a lot of cars to choose from. The nice thing about Florida is there's not rust on the car because they're not in the salt and the snow and they don't corrode. And so some of these cars are in great shape, even though they're older. So I looked at multiple types of cars and multiple, dealerships. And this dealership it's in St. Petersburg. It's actually in Kenneth City, Florida. They had no room in the parking lot for any cars or anybody to move, and you had to park on the street, which was to me insane. And I didn't really get it. But actually, one of their own customers said they like hoard cars and buy way too many, and then they don't have room for them. And one of the problems was that when I went to go test drive a couple of these vehicles, one of the people that worked there backing the car out of these squishy, tight spaces actually hit one of the cars that was parked in there for sale because there wasn't enough wiggle room to get past that car. And it was really shocking to me. And sadly, that should have been a warning sign for me that they're just not a place where they have everything under control. It's practically out of control. But when I got the car, when I test drove the car, the one that I chose, there wasn't any engine lights on at all. But upon purchase, the little tire sensor light was on. And so the two people that were there said, "Oh, it was low on air. They filled all the four tires with air and they told me that light will go out on the way home." Guess what? It didn't. So I texted them that the light never went out and they never responded. And that's very telling because that indicates they knew or they didn't care. And so the next day I brought the car to Tire Choice, which was near the hotel I was staying at, and they put the tires on there to find out what was going on and whatever. And the person at the desk said to me, changing sensors in tires is a very expensive deal. It's usually why they don't do it. But what we'll do is why don't you order the parts from Amazon and then we'll charge you $20 a tire for labor. And everybody, the reason there's check engine lights in a car is because they're telling you what to fix and what isn't right, aligning the car on the road. You don't want to have a car with a check engine light on. And where I came from in Massachusetts and in some states, you can't sell a car or get a sticker if your check engine light is on because it means the car's not safe to drive. So I grew up that way and it helped not have accidents for the vehicle that you were driving in. So the response from this dealership was nothing. And then once I went to Tire Choice and they showed me all the things that were wrong, plus the oil gasket or some part of the car was leaking oil. And they showed it dripping on the floor. And then I went back to look at my parking spot because it never dawned on me. And there in my parking spot is oil all on the ground. And I'm like, oh my God. And when an engine's leaking oil and it's leaking all over the engine, as they showed me in multiple pictures, they told me, oil heats up and it can eventually get into here and get into there. And you can actually seize your engine and it could actually cause a fire, which is rare. But I'm down here in Florida. It could get that hot. And then you're driving in the hot car and everything heats up and boof. And so I said to them, what's it going to cost to fix all this? And then they showed me that they put on new brake pads, but there was a problem past that where they had done something else that was wrong. So they gave me this big, huge bill with all the labor at this particular dealer. And that dealer said it was almost $8,000 to fix it plus labor. And there was a lot wrong. They weren't saying it's a bad car. They were saying there was a lot of things they had to fix. So I freaked out because I had just bought this car and I'm like, oh my God. So then I wrote to them and said, all these things are wrong. And their response was, you don't have an engine leak and your tires aren't bad. When I watched them through the window, pull them off the car, then I went over under the car and then they showed me the nails that there was a screw in one of the tires and there were two tires that were patched already. And then they showed me the date, and three of the tires were from 2020, and one tire was from 2023. And the one from 2023 was the one that had the nail in it and a patch. It was worse. And they weren't wearing right on the car. So this dealership showed me they put there's like a little meter that you can see the depth of the tires, and they were on bald. And then they went to new tires and showed me the same thing and showed me what it's supposed to look like, where only the green part shows, not the yellow and the red. So then I write to the dealer. And while they're denying it, instead of apologizing, instead of saying, I'm sorry, instead of saying, we'll fix it, they absolutely were perpetrating all these responses because all you want is a safe car and you want them to say, oh, I'm so sorry. And if they say we didn't know, then now that they do know, how do you go and fix it? And every response that they had was demeaning me, targeting me, bullying me. And then that prompted more responses. And then when I went to find out what Florida laws were under Google, they don't have a 72-hour thing, which is even for an as-is car is available in some states. But what they do have is a fraud statute where if they hid what was wrong with the car, you have recourse under fraud because they can't sell you a car with all these issues and all these problems and not disclose them and then put their asking price for a perfectly conditioned used car for that year compared to like Kelly Blue Book or wherever they get their numbers. And so I tried as hard as I could to fix it. And instead of any single solution, they just made it worse. And they don't have an on site mechanic, they're a dealership. And if they had a mechanic, do you know how easy it would be to go buy four matching used tires, put them on a car that you're selling, and they get wholesale prices, and then sell a car so that the buyer is safe with this car for another 20,000 miles, and then they have to buy tires and then disclose that to them. These tires have been used for 20,000 miles, but they've got 20 more thousand to go. If you want to get new tires or if you want to get um, another set, here's our dealer, here's whatever. They try to work with you. That's what a good business does. And then if you have an oil leak, I guess what the mechanic said to me is in most Toyotas, at about 130 to 140,000 miles, the oil gasket goes. It's a common trait on these cars that you have to change that at a certain point. So if you're taking in a car and you're buying it from a dealer, a auction, or whatever, that should be number one in your mind. Is that you say to yourself, um, is this going to need an oil change? Is an oil gasket change? And then if you have the means and a mechanic that you're paying, pay him, fix it, and sell the car without an oil leak. And what they did instead was, as the oil's leaking in my driveway and leaking at this tire choice, they're saying that it's not there. And so then you're like saying to yourself, what is wrong with these people? Why aren't they putting out a car that is, good on the road and safe to drive, and the oil gasket's already been changed? But long story short, they just make everything worse. And then they really go after their customers and then they blame them, they insult them. In fact, when they don't even assume whatever else you have going on in your life. So when you're staying in a hotel and catching up and looking for apartments and looking for cars and visiting people and catching up and taking care of your family, if the only time that you can get back on the computer is late at night, they write you for that. It's like it's past their bedtime and you can't use the computer unless it's in their office hours. Really? I know people that have to work at night and their free time is at 3 in the morning because of their shift or whatever. Those things aren't relevant. But what they do is if you want to write a light message because that's when you can get on your computer, that's the answer they gave the BBB, as though I committed a crime by writing to them past their hours. And I just said, oh my goodness, I tried so hard to fix this. I'm going to ask the audience, would you ever bring your car back to the place that sold it to you in that condition? And by the way, the other mechanic that has the car right now said to me when he was taking off the pieces that they used a heater hose for the power steering belt. And this is the kind of mechanics that they have. They have mechanics that go put on used tires so that it goes after this warranty expires, and they don't even match. And there are places where, we tow cars to the junkyard. So, for example, if you had a car that had an accident and it had 1,000 to 2,000 miles on it, they take the tires off, and those tires have 30 or 40,000 more miles to go, and they're a matched set. And there are people that bid for those good tires at auctions, and then they go put them on a used car because there's so much wear left, even though the car got totaled or it couldn't be repaired, and so on and so on. You don't have to have a used car with bad equipment because then it's unsafe to drive. And so the only thing that I was hoping and praying was that I could work with this dealer and they would refund me some of the money that I paid for the car. And that's what they owe people. If they fight you on that, then they're intentionally selling a car over the price for what it is worth in the condition they sold it in. And they're basically extorting it or scamming it or whatever you want to call it. But they don't want to give a refund. And then they force you to go through the Better Business Bureau, the Attorney General, a small claims case, and whatever. And the only thing people are trying to do is live, survive, no matter what age you are. Life is hard and prices are high and it's expensive. And you just want to survive. And when you get a car, you don't plan that you need a backup car so that the car goes in the shop and you are carless. And I was renting a car the whole time I was looking for cars, and that was $200 a week. Imagine that. And you can only do that for so long. So I spent as long a time as I could to try to find the best car. And the name on this brand is false because they are not selling quality cars. They're selling whatever cars they get their hands on in conditions that aren't as described. And all they should do to remedy it is help you get in a safe car. And the thing is, if I owned a business, I would be so happy watching my customer leave my lot in a safe car, know that I sold it to them, know they're going to recommend me to people, know that they might come back when that car's all worn out. And I would live for that satisfaction that all the time I did the best I could. What is with the character of someone that lets car after car after car leave the lot in bad condition and have the customers write bad reviews? And so I went to Yelp, I went to Google, I went everywhere, and there are similar situations to what happened to me. And the Better Business Bureau ended up having, you know, a lot of negative complaints about them and they don't get resolved because the dealer goes into Google, into the complaint and attacks the customer instead of saying, you know what, I'm so sorry that their car experience here was wrong. We're working to fix it. We're working to help them. And we will meet them at a certain point with these things because maybe we didn't check the car and that is our liability. That's what they should be doing. And so they've gone back and forth and back and forth. And all they keep saying is stop by. They mean park on the grass on the side of the road because there's no room in the dealership. There's not an on-site mechanic. I was there. The only people that were there were salespeople and a guy and the guy that was moving the cars around and washing cars and whatever. And he had a hose and he was rinsing cars off. He's not a mechanic. And inside it looked like there was like a barn or something. I don't know what was inside because I didn't go. If that's where their mechanic is and he's letting cars leave that lot, or he's the one that put the heater hose for the power steering belt, you don't trust that person to go back and touch your car again. And the thing that's honest about tires choice, they might be high priced, but you can look through the window and watch the mechanics touch your car. And I'm sure they have cameras around there because all places do by now to watch what they're doing. And then they want to own the liability of anything they missed or anything they didn't fix correctly. This barn type place that was in the back, it was pitch black when I saw it and I couldn't see what was going on in there or even if it was affiliated with that dealership. It was just there. And so you can't trust a place where you're not. When I own the keys and I have the title and then I'm liable for anybody that touches that car, you don't just hand off that liability to a bad mechanic and to a mechanic that's going to Mickey Mouse put parts together so that, oh, 30 days are done and now we're out of trouble. They're using and abusing the warranty process so that they try to blame you and say, well, you now have to pay 50-50 and we'll fix it. No, you don't. If they sell you cars in this condition, they have the liability. It doesn't fall under warranty yet. Warranty would be happening if you start driving for a few days and then your check engine light comes on and then something has to happen and then you need it fixed. But when it's already on there or they hit it, it falls under fraud. It falls under misrepresenting the car and the price that they're asking. And for me, they were just desperate, they were greedy, and they were happy to mistreat somebody. And they shouldn't be. It's not a personal thing if a person who buys a car knows how to stand up for themselves and say, this isn't right. I'm going to fix it. And so I'm sad, but this is who these people are. And the guy Bart that owns, I've owned this for 20 years. Okay, so did all 20 years you mistreat people? Have you had complaints for the whole 20 years? If you've been in business for 20 years doing it wrong, when do you start to get it right? How many cars does it take to let you say, gee, what if I did this way and then I didn't have any more complaints? You know? And all I want people to do is understand the difference between what they should have and what they end up with. It's a lot more work to undo something. And the way they trick you is that they say to you, oh, you can go have the car checked by a private mechanic. Well, that's what I just went and did. And then they put down the mechanic, they put down the work, they put down what he said. They said those tires aren't the ones that were there. Yeah, I watched them come off the car. And that mechanic even offered to hold the tires, save the tires, let them come view the tires, offered to call them and say to them, look, this is real. And they turned down everything. And so the bottom line is you're paying for a car, you have to get insurance before you can even let it leave the lot. And then you need to drive it to live. And so you have to do what you have to do, and then you have to fight them for it. And my hope is that one time they get it right and that they fix something, and then all their negative reviews can go away. If they ever fixed what happened, I'd rewrite my review and say there was a little problem, but they fixed it. They were great. And then they start erasing the negative do, the negative review that's actually true by many, many people. And again, it falls under character of, why are you happy when you can mistreat a man, a woman, any kind of a customer, and go target them for realizing that their car isn't what you said it was? I pray they fix things. I pray they change how they're treating people. And I pray they handle what happened to me in my car. It's not $1 million. We're talking about used cars here, and we're talking about repairs of things that were wrong. So I searched around for cheaper mechanics and good mechanics, and that took hours, days, and miles. And it took a few Uber rides because right now, today, I'm carless. My car is at the dealer getting fixed, but I didn't have to spend what Tire Choice was going to charge because they were charging more for labor. And this dealership should be grateful that I spent less and got the job done, and they need to refund me. And it's just that simple. And if they had fixed it themselves and let a car leave their lot in the right condition, the only time I would deal with them is to go get my plate. And unfortunately, they made all this mess themselves. And then they try to act like they're the victims and complain about it when they caused it. And I hope this doesn't happen to anybody else.